Funding for this program was made possible by the Heinz Endowments. Thank you.
I'm not here to be second place. You know, I'm obsessed with being number one. I don't sleep at night. I've just recently lost 13 pounds because I work. I mean, it's lunchtime right now. You know, I'm working.
We got a responsibility, and we make the difference.
There is something unique about Trailblazers, the people who make their mark and set the bar high for those who would follow in their footsteps. They are outspoken.
We all know the pain that's in our community, but we can't structure pain.
They are driven.
So you willing to let your friends go to the parties and hang out, and you sit back and you read about the rule against perpetuities.
And they are passionate.
People sometimes in Pittsburgh, they look at me like I'm an astronaut. I'm just a lawyer, you know, and you can do it. But you have to be willing to sacrifice.
It doesn't matter what other people think, it's what you think. It's what you think about yourself and what you can get accomplished.
What's up, brother? How you doing? How are you? Good.
What have they accomplished in the Pittsburgh community? What do they hope for? And who has served as inspirations to the new Trailblazers? In the Old Testament, after the death of Moses, God tells Joshua, "Arise and go over Jordan," telling him, in effect, get up and move forward toward tomorrow's challenges. Symbolically, the torch was passed to a new generation of leadership. After the turbulent 60s and 70s, the torch has been passed to a new generation of leadership in the African American community in Pittsburgh. You could call them the new Trailblazers. Well, tonight you'll meet two of them who are making their marks in the law and in politics. And you'll hear some perspective from some folks who have walked in their shoes. Aside from the polished shoes and the tailored look that listed him among the best-dressed lawyers in Pittsburgh, according to the Post-Gazette, the voice of Blaine Jones echoes through the courthouses and magistrate courts throughout the region.
You know, it's funny. You know, you read these affidavits of probable cause, and things are not always as they appear. She's hurt by these allegations, and she's eager to show that she's done nothing wrong. Here we are 3 days before Christmas, and this man's life has been turned upside down.
His inspiration for pursuing law as a career is rooted in history.
You know what, I grew up around here, and my mother used to always tell me about Thurgood Marshall and how he went to Howard University. He was the first African-American Supreme Court justice. And I always thought it was interesting how a person could speak on behalf of another person. And to me, that there's no more awesome of a power than to be able to represent someone. I wanted to be one of two things growing up. I either wanted to be a lawyer or I wanted to be a professional soccer player in Europe. Soccer took me so far, and then it was time to kick in and do the law thing. And I love it. I am so blessed to be in this position.
Soccer became his passion as his family moved from Aliquippa to the Emsworth Arms Apartments and then on to Moon Township.
So in Moon, soccer is religion. Soccer is a very big deal. And you know, I started like any other kid at 4 or 5 years old playing. And fortunately, you know, I was good at it, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. And I used to play soccer and basketball. And then in 9th grade, I made the varsity team, and I scored a goal in the Whitfield Championship. And we had a great season. We won the Whitfield Championship. And then Howard University came knocking, and when Howard comes knocking, you open that door. And I'm getting a full scholarship for soccer to Howard University. I was a 4-year starter. I was a 2-time MVP, and I earned 2 degrees while I was on scholarship. Here I am, a skinny kid from Moon Township, and I'm at Howard University. And I realized the sacrifice of my parents, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents, and I was not going to take that for granted. So when I was at Howard University, I busted my tail to be number 1. I sat in the front row of the classes. In fact, my wife, who went there on a volleyball scholarship, that's how we met, she'd always make fun of me because we had classes together, and I'd be in the front row, like the biggest nerd in the class, with my pens and my glasses and ready to win. I looked at it as a competition.
He ended up at Golden Gate University School of Law in San Francisco, his wife's home, after graduation from Howard, a school known for its litigation program.
Yes. Gabby, can you please bring me the file?
He graduated with distinction in litigation.
Thank you. I was dead broke all the time. I went out there, I started in 2000, and my rent was $2,800 a month. So all I did is I studied from sunup to sundown. I didn't go to Alcatraz. I didn't go wine tasting. I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't make any friends, as a matter of fact. I didn't have any friends. My friends were my law books. And I had interned at the San Francisco District Attorney's Office, and I interned in Oakland, Alameda County Superior Court with a judge there. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked the Bay Area. But in terms of cost, it simply wasn't feasible to remain out there. I knew district attorneys who had like 3 and 4 other jobs with 4 and 5 roommates. And then, I kept in contact with my folks who were back here and friends. And I don't know, I felt like I could come back to Pittsburgh and do some good things.
But returning home wouldn't be easy either at first.
I came back here and I didn't know a soul. So it was just very, very difficult. Fortunately, I got a job at the Allegheny County Office of the Public Defender. I was hired in 2004, and I tried a tremendous amount of cases. After my first year of practice, I think I had maybe like 4,300 cases I did, because I was in the preliminary hearings unit. And I do 30 of those a day, and I loved it. I mean, if there was a robbery, give it to me. A burglary, give it to me. I want to go do it.
4 years later, he handled a rape trial. Its result would change everything.
If my guy were convicted, he was looking at like 40 or 50 years, something crazy. And we end up winning the case. And he had 5 counts. The lead count was rape. We won the case. And that Friday, I was picking up my wife and kids to take our kids to soccer practice or whatever. They were little. And I dropped them off. And then I went, Harold, to the vending machine. I pulled out my wallet, opened it up, and I have $1 in my wallet. I couldn't even buy my son a drink. And at that moment, I had this epiphany. As much as I enjoy being a public defender, because I enjoyed it, I couldn't do it any longer. And I always tell people, it's like, I'm a big sports fan, and it's like you outplay your rookie contract. But unfortunately, because it's a government job, it's not like they could re-up the money. So I had a decision to make. And it was probably one of the most difficult decisions in my life. And that was basically to start my own firm.
He got some guidance from then defense attorney Joe Williams, who is now an Allegheny County judge.
He taught me how to be a private attorney. He and he alone, really. There are a lot of people who helped me become a lawyer, but he taught me how to become a private attorney, how to run a business. And that's how I came about starting my firm in 2008.
And that is a whole business in itself. I mean, there's the law, but the business of running a law firm is a business.
Yeah, it's difficult. I never even owned a lemonade stand. And unfortunately, I didn't have the foresight in either college or law school to take a business course. I should have taken an economics or an accounting 101, something like that. So when people ask me, I always tell them, take something like that. You never know if you're ever going to have your own firm. I never did that. But for Joe Williams being there and saying, Blaine, you might want to do it like this as opposed to doing it like that, I don't know if I'd be sitting here talking to your viewers today.
He's had a lot of viewers on local TV news, handling all kinds of cases.
There is enough evidence to send 27-year-old Kiera Pollard to trial.
A mother accused of leaving her children home alone to die in a fire.
This is an unthinkable tragedy, and we want Kiera to get home so that she can grieve appropriately.
A teenager involved in a fight at school that got out of hand.
He was defending himself. He was punched in the face, and he defended himself. This is a young man that has no history of violence.
A man accused of sexual assault.
When he first heard of the allegations, he was absolutely floored.
What do you say to viewers who say, how can you defend that guy? How can you defend that woman? How can you take up their case? Which is, obviously something they're thinking.
I get that question a lot, and I think it's a fair and logical question. Everyone is entitled to a fair defense. Nothing shady, nothing sneaky, but a fair defense. Someone's going to fight hard for them. And that's what I do for my clients. I don't lie to my clients. I'm straight up with them. What you see is what you get. And if I have a case, I'm coming to win that case.
And he will tell you there's a difference between what you learn in law school and what happens in the real world of law.
In law school, you get the theory. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty. And it sounds beautiful, and it should mean something. But practically speaking, the practical application of it is, generally speaking, people consider your client guilty until you prove them innocent. And the other thing that I think is tough, that I tell my clients that's difficult to absorb, is that unfortunately sometimes it's not about the truth. It's about the evidence that can be proven. And they don't teach you that in law school.
What would you say to young people who are contemplating possibly a career in the law as to what they may expect it to be and what it really is?
I'd say it's hard work, it's sacrifice. There's so many days of my life that are gone, literally. Gone. All I did was study, wake up, shower, and study and only eat because I had to just, So if you are willing to sacrifice, because you're going to be swimming with sharks like me, then go for it. But if your heart's not in it, then you need to find another profession.
The firm's offices are in the U.S. Steel Tower. And there are a lot of folks who in this business may operate out of their house. It's a symbol of achievement.
I just hope I make them proud, man. Yeah. I always look at it like this. I'm winning a race, okay? And if I start to slow down and see if Usain Bolt is in my rearview mirror or see who's coming around, then I'll lose that race. And these people will eclipse me. They'll be gone. So maybe one day when I'm old and gray, I'll get a chance to sit back and say, you know what, I did okay. But right now, I'm on a mission, and that's to work hard for my clients and to get great results. But I hope that my people are proud of me. And I won't go too further on that because I'll get a little emotional. I think in life, you have to make your family name proud. And that's what I'm trying to do, make my family name proud.
Retired Judge Livingstone Johnson knows all about making a family name proud through a law career. His father, Oliver Johnson, started a practice in Pittsburgh in 1922.
When we got started, my father had a white client base, which I would guess would be not 50%. I'd say 10%. It was more than the average black lawyer had.
But it wasn't until the 1960s when Oliver Johnson and his sons Justin and Livingstone practiced with him that black lawyers could think seriously about having law offices in a downtown high-rise.
This is my father, this is myself, this is my brother. That's shot down in our law office. Since 1966, we had the first law office for African Americans in a major building in the city of Pittsburgh when we got a lease at the Allegheny building.
At the time, the Allegheny building was being transformed from Kaufman's warehouse to an office building.
I called my father and told him, he says, well, you call your brother Justin. He says, see what he thinks. So I talked to Justin. Justin says, yeah. He says, we need to move from 527 Fifth Avenue. That was a one-story walk up in this ramshackle building up over the Old Venice restaurant across from the courthouse. Everybody else is black lawyers. They're the kind of office space we had. Most of us, in addition to our private practice, had government jobs that we were in because
the private practice might not sustain you.
That's it.
The U.S. Steel high-rise had yet to be built, but the Johnsons at the time were amazed they could move up to their new surrounding. Had you all even envisioned that kind of thing was possible back then?
Not at all. When I talked to my dad and my brother, I told them, I said, let's get ready for a fight. I said, because I don't know if they're going to rent to us or not. I said, they're smiling at me every day in court. I said, but I don't know what they're going to do.
The Johnsons got the office space. What do you think is the biggest difference between him coming into the scene now and when you came into the scene? And what do you think is the most similar, that there may be some things that are similar?
There are a lot of things that are similar because in my view, Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, Western Pennsylvania, have not yet caught up with the 60s, let alone the 21st century. Pittsburgh is still a very conservative, restrictive, limiting place to live.
With regard to race?
I would say definitely with regard to race, but I believe even as to the white population, it's that way. Because I don't think it's just young black kids that are moving away from Pittsburgh. I think young white kids have been moving away from Pittsburgh for a long time too. I think we're starting to change now, slowly.
As long as we got a system in place that allows us to make money for the Commonwealth, we should modernize it and not privatize it.
Another new trailblazer, this one in the field of politics, is Pennsylvania State Representative Ed Gainey. Here he argues in Harrisburg for the Democratic Party's long-held opposition to privatizing the state liquor store system.
We can decide to be about the kids and give the benefit to the liquor store system for making sure that we rank 7th in terms of underage drinking. That is an accomplishment.
His intensity is obvious in his presentation.
Why are we going backwards when you know we have an obligation to go forward? We cannot continue to take steps back and limit women's health knowing that they need coverage.
It sounded like you had some preacher in you, do you?
No, sir. I don't have anyone in my family that was a preacher.
And where does that come from?
I think it's just my passion if I believe in what I'm doing.
How you doing? How are you? Good. How y'all
He
doing?
began representing the 24th Legislative District in January of 2013. He grew up in Pittsburgh's East End, a graduate of Peabody High School. But his inspiration for politics was formed when he was a student at an historically black college in Baltimore.
It was when I was at Morgan State University. I was in college, and at the time, the University of Maryland wanted to take over Morgan State. I had went to class that day, and the professor said, "Why are you at class?" I said, "Well, you teach it." He said, "Well, your assignment is in the streets today with your classmates. You need to make sure that this stays a historical black college." So we had the opportunity to walk from Morgan State University down to City Hall, and at the time, there was a gentleman down there that was mayor named Kurt Smoke. First time I ever met a politician in my life. And what they were doing down there is they were using the federal dollars to redo the housing projects. They were doing mixed income housing. And at the time, as a naive young gentleman, I said, well, that's kind of like genocide. Where are all the poor people going to go? It seems like if you're getting rid of the projects, you're getting rid of where poor people live. And he said, I'll deal with you after this meeting. So afterwards, I had the opportunity to talk to him. And he said, I'm making a better community. He said, I want to change the corner. He said, I want to change the image of the corner. He said, instead of the kids going to school and seeing the drug addicts on the corner, the prostitutes on the corner, abandoned buildings, he said, I want them to see people that's dressed like me and you going to school, going to work, doing what's necessary to help raise a family and improve their life. He said, so I have to change the image in order to change the condition.
What he saw of Baltimore's effort to redevelop neighborhoods stayed with him.
And so when I came home, I got into community development. I took a job as a community organizer with East Liberty Development. And in that position, I started organizing the stakeholders in the community, resident councils, business people, politicians, the whole nine.
There was a renewed interest in renewing East Liberty around the time he came back home. In this footage from 2005, East Liberty Development, Inc. celebrated tearing down the high-rise that crossed Penn Avenue and was symbolic of a 1960s urban plan that did not work.
It will open up a significant amount of land to build hundreds of new houses that will be mixed income, meaning that they'll be available for both people on low and moderate income as well as market rate.
I really appreciate all you do with education and homeless children.
Eventually, he worked in the mayor's office.
At the mayor's office, it was more intense. There was more things to do, more developments to learn about, and he had really put a concentration on how he wanted to redevelop East Liberty, Mayor Murphy at the time. Me having already done that, working with the stakeholders, the city councils, the politicians, it gave me a foot up to helping them understand how we drive development in East Liberty and what we had to do.
The redevelopment of East Liberty and East Side is ongoing. So what's the main difference between what he expected of government and what actually happens?
One of the biggest differences for me was I always wondered, how do they generate this type of revenue to be able to do projects? And then when you get in there and you learn about the Urban Redevelopment Authority, you learn about Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authorities, the different funding vehicles that they have to actually drive development, you get a better appreciation on how much hard work and dedication it takes to make sure that the funding vehicles is right in order to do development.
We've signed a sales agreement with Sears to acquire this 8 acres of property here.
But as he got closer to the political process, he challenged his former employer, State Representative Joe Preston, 3 times.
And I'm running because I believe now, particularly at the time that we're in right now, we need a state representative who's accessible.
He finally won by a 2-to-1 margin. Now, as one of more than 200 House members, how does he find his niche and make an impact?
The key is learning. Whatever you're going to do in life, you have to learn the system. You have to learn process and procedures in order to get things accomplished. One way of doing that for me right now, as you say, and being a freshman legislature, is be able to communicate with my district. So I'm always communicating. I do email blasts, I do Facebook, I do Twitter, I do the traditional through the mail. Whatever I need to do to be able to reach my community, I want to make sure that I'm reaching my district.
How you doing? Good. How's everything? How you been?
This meeting on gun control at the Carnegie Library in Homewood is one of those attempts he makes to reach his district. He connects on many levels.
This is the minister of the 14th Ward. Great guy, been in politics for a long time. It's always good to have that wise counsel in your corner. He's a gentleman I can bounce things off, and he gives me some great advice. Today is your day to make sure that you're asking the questions that you want answers to.
Gun crime here is not new. Neither are many of the proposed solutions.
We got all these guns out here. We got anti-gun advocates, pro-gun advocates. What is the politicians doing, and how do we know what they're doing? If the legislation is not there, like the Florida loophole, they will always skate through it like it doesn't exist. And we, through legislation, must close the loopholes and everything else that doesn't make our city safe.
He attracts not only a crowd at the meeting, but a number of political officials who share his concern about the issue, but also know the significance of the district he represents.
We need you to help us save our community. The anger's not going to get it. But a structured way of making sure that Toomey and the Republicans and Democrats throughout this state understand that we need some type of gun control legislation passed is the only way we're going to get something done.
It's all during an era when voters wonder whether politicians can actually get something done.
I don't think that nobody should be walking the street with an assault weapon. I'm for banning them. But I don't know if we can get that through. I don't know if the interest on both sides is large enough to be able to get that done. The way I see it is if we can get something done to show the people that we're working on their best half, whether you're Republican or a Democrat, it brings value, it makes sense, and it's the right thing to do to make sure that everybody that's purchasing a firearm has a background check.
This is Rashad Birdsong, Trailblazer in the community.
Gainey was the first black Pittsburgh City Democratic chairman. What would he say to a younger generation of students just like he was at Morgan State, looking at politics as a possible career?
When I talk to young people, I say always remember, research what you want. Research what you want and be able to organize those people that's around what you want to better help you impact the things that you want to change.
In the 1970s, Bill Robinson said he represented change when he came on the political scene in a run for Pittsburgh City Council. After the May primary in 1977, the Pittsburgh Courier reported that the election marked a number of firsts, including the first time black ward chairmen showed enough political clout to add a black candidate to the slate in spite of objections from top party leaders. Robinson ran on a ticket with three other city council candidates, Robert Rade Stone, Bill Coyne, who would go on to Congress, and Sophie Masloff, who would one day be mayor.
That was probably the last campaign for Democratic candidates for city council when all the candidates literally ran together, had a pool of money, and actually tried to help each other.
In that era, the party blessing meant a lot more than it does today. He was given some advice during that campaign about not appearing to break from the ticket.
When your colleagues leave a meeting to go to another meeting, go with them. That was some of the best advice I had gotten, because during that era, if you ran as a team, you had a better chance of being successful than if you had run individually. Today, it's much easier for candidates to run without the Democratic endorsement. I'm willing to give $5,000 of my own money to the candidate who comes up with this plan to assist black people and poor people.
As a county council member and a former state legislator, he made that public offer as the mayor's race began to take shape. The pros and cons of a powerful party organization and whether the political process is better served without it has been debated for decades now. But Robinson, based on his experience, says this.
There's no black Dave Lawrence to sit down in this county, this city, and say, let's have a conversation. One day, maybe I want to be the mayor. One day, I want to be the governor. And he was both of this city. To say, how do we put that together? Who do we need on this team?
Are we future leaders? Who's going to be a future leader in the black community?
And to those who would consider politics, he suggests a conversation with somebody who has perspective.
I think all these young people need to understand you need some gray and some glasses. And the only place to get that is from probably people who they felt or feel were part of a system that didn't serve them. My predecessor, the Honorable Kaylee Irvis, said, I just want to give you 2 pieces of advice. On issues of principle and matters close to your heart, vote your conscience. On other matters, stick with your party leadership.
So I want you to ask them about the legislation and what we can do.
Only time will tell just how political realities will shape a new generation of politicians, or what opportunities will open up for the new kids on the block in law. But there's a common thread among the new Trailblazers, regardless of profession. They say they're ready to take up where the previous generation left off.
My great-grandfather migrated here from Pascagoula, Mississippi, and I intend on making good on that migration with all my heart and soul.
Funding for this program was made possible by the Heinz Endowments. Thank you.